we will straight away jump into our first presentation, which is by Elisa and Sarah. So I'll just give a brief introduction. So Dr. Elisa Ganser is a researcher at the University of Zurich at the Department of Indian Studies. She did her PhD in Asian Studies in Rome with a specialization in Sanskrit literature. In her thesis, she studied the aesthetics of Indian dance in the light of the Natyashastra. And this is where we begin today, the program, and no better way to begin a Swiss Natya Sabha Symposium other than discussing Natyashastra itself. Sarah Ganser is a professional dancer and musician. She has got an MA in Bharatanatyam, BA in Western music, runs her own dance school here in Zurich, and she has had the privilege of learning under Dr. Padma Subramaniam directly and learning the karanas from her. So I'll give the floor to Sarah and Elisa.
Yeah, okay. Hello everybody, welcome. Sorry, it's a bit blurred the image, but we'll encounter the same image later on, and I will say something more about this. So our presentation today is about the karanas of the Natyashastra. I will speak about the karanas, and Sarah will demonstrate some of them. We cannot go through all of them because they're 108, so we will be still here till this evening, and we want to keep it short. We are already a bit late, so maybe I'll cut some of the parts. And yes, why karanas of the Natyashastra? So I guess I have to move the slides, and I hope you can still hear me. Maybe I can take this now. Okay, thanks. Yes, so why karanas of the Natyashastra? So karanas is not really a style like Bharatanatyam or Kathak or Odissi. It's more of a technique, and it's a technique which has been reconstructed in the recent decades. So what we see today of karanas is a new interpretation, but why do we call them karanas of the Natyashastra? Because karanas are first codified in this treatise by Bharata. And as maybe all of you or most of you in this audience know, Bharata's Natyashastra was composed around the beginning of the Common Era. So it means that these karanas are like maybe 2,000-year-old, and probably they're even older because they are put into writing and codification for the first time in the Natyashastra, which means they existed already before. And Natyashastra is a treatise on theater, a Shastra on Natya, as the title says. It's a huge treatise composed in 37 chapters. It's about theater, and it codifies all the techniques for producing a play in Sanskrit. And why karanas are found in the Natyashastra? Because they were added to the performance by God Shiva after he saw a play, and he said, oh, this is very beautiful, but something is missing. And he said, oh, please, Bharata, dear sage Bharata, add the karanas to it. And karanas were added in the ritual part preceding the performance, that is called Purvaranga, and they were taught to Bharata through an attendant of Shiva called Tandu, and that's why the dance is called the Tandava, from Tandu, Tandava. It's the same etymological derivation. So the karanas are studied and described in the chapter 4 of the Natyashastra, the Tandava Adhyaya, chapter on Tandava, on dance. And they are 108, as I already said. And there is one verse for each karana, one shloka in Sanskrit describing each karana. So 108 verses. Okay, and so now we have the image which is not blurred, and why I put this image. This is the first edition of the Natyashastra that was published in 1926. As you can see on the upper part here you have the verses describing the karanas and everything else. And then this part is prose, and it's the commentary by Abhinav, a very famous philosopher from Kashmir, who commented on the whole of the Natyashastra. It's a very philosophical commentary, but it gives also some details about the technique, as we will see. So this is Abhinav Bharati, as the commentary is called, and this was written 1,000 years after the Natyashastra. And these that you see here are reproductions of karanas from Chidambaram. And they date from the 13th century, so 200 years later than Abhinav Gupta. So I wanted to show you this image because maybe you can get the impression that the images and the text, they are all the same date. But actually no, there is a history to it. So the images were created more than 1,000 years later than the Natyashastra. So it means it's already an interpretation by the sculptures. We don't know if in Chidambaram there were people practicing karanas. We know that there were dancers attached to the temples, but we don't know what kind of dance they did. We just know that there are these sculptures of the underneath karanas from Natyashastra. Yes, so I wanted to show you where the karanas are found. If you go to Chidambaram, first you will enter through the outer corridor, and then you see in front of you these huge gopurams. These are the entrance gate for a temple. There are 4 of them at the 4 cardinal points. And how does it work? The devotee or the pilgrim passes through these doors, which are highly decorated with many stores. They're beautiful. They are, yes, the doorways to heaven, if you want. And inside, in this part, in this arch, they are also carved, and that's where you find the karanas. So there are 108 for each of the 4 gopurams, for each of these 4 entrances. Next, please. Yes, it's not only in Chidambaram that you find karanas, but also in other temples, in Tamil Nadu especially. So one instance is Kumbakonam, which is 12th century, so 100 years earlier than the Chidambaram one. And as you can see, they are not in the gopurams, they are directly set on the outer part of the temple. And they are not presented one by one, but you find them in couples, like these 2 here, or there are 3 of them. And they go all around the temple. So the devotee who was circumambulating the temple was able to see all of the karanas. And there are some older ones in Tanjavur. Unfortunately, the temple was under renovation when I went to visit, so I could not take pictures. So let's go into karanas now. This is the first karana. It's called Talapushpaputa, which means a handful of flowers. And why do we know it's from the Natyashastra? Because every sculpture has an inscription. I don't know if you see it, I don't have a pointer, but on the top lintel, upside the figure, the dancing figure, there is a verse of the Natyashastra engraved. It's in Granta script, it's another script for Sanskrit used in the south. And so we know that these were directly taken from Natyashastra. We go to the next one that we demonstrate right now. Okay, next please. Yes. So, how is the structure of a karana? What is a karana? A karana is, according to this definition, it says Yani stanani yascharyo nriktahastas tatayvacha samatriketi ijnaya tadyogat karanam bhavet. What does it mean? Those postures, the sthanas, those feet movements, the charis, and also the hand gestures for dance, the nriktahastas, are to be known as the matrix, this matrika of a karana. A karana results from the combination of these elements. So it's a combination of sthana, chari, and nriktahasta. And now I leave the word to Sarah.
These 3 elements, the sthana, chari, and nriktahasta, have one element which is a static element, which is the sthana, which is the body position. The posture of the body, which is static. It's just the form, how we stand, how are the feet. And we do have 6 male sthanas and 3 female sthanas. Then the charis and the nriktahastas are moving elements. So a chari is a movement from the hip to the toes. So how can the leg move? And we have, according to if we are on the floor or off the floor, like leaping, jumping. We have the akasha charis on the off the floor, or the bhumi charis, where I keep the feet on the floor. We have 16 of each, 16 akasha charis and 16 bhumi charis. Nriktahastas are the movements, again another moving element, are the movements from the shoulder to the fingertips. So how to move the whole arm like how to use the whole arm in movement. We have 30 of them, and other than the Abhinaya hastas, which we know, these are static, but the Nritta hastas of Natyashastra are movements. And we have 13 of them, 13 Nritta hastas.
Okay, so let's go now to the definition of the first karana. As I said, we just go through a few of them. I'll read the Sanskrit verse. It says, Valme pushpa putat pashve, padogretala sanchara, tadacha samnatam pashvam, tala pushpa puta bhave. Which means that the pushpa puta hand is held on the left side, the foot is agretala sanchara, and the side is bent. Okay, however, it's very difficult to imagine a movement just from these terse descriptions, don't you agree? So probably dancers were learning directly from their masters how to perform the whole movement. This was just like a mnemonic aid for performers. It doesn't really help you to understand the whole movement. And you need to know the technical terms, what a pushpa puta gesture head, what agretala sanchara foot is, what nata side position is in the definition. And this you don't know from the chapter on dance, but you have to go to the chapters on Angika Vinaya. So we put the definition here, so pushpa puta and gesture, where you use sarpashira, and with no space between the fingers, and the hand close to the side, and this is Tala Pushpa Puta. Agretala Sanchara is when the heel is raised, the big toe is stretched forward, and all the other toes are curved. And then we have Nata position, which is when the hip is lowered, the side is slightly bent, and the shoulder is a little drawn back. And so this is Nata side. So these are the building blocks of a karana. However, it's still not really a movement. And fortunately, we have the commentary of Abhinav who explains a little bit how the movement takes place. What are the in-between movement? What are the connecting movement? The movements in between, as I call them. So it provides some instructions, like what's happening between this Nata and Pushpa Puta and Agretala Sanchara. And it says you have a chari there. And it's Adhyadhika chari, which is the left foot is behind the right one, is then drawn away, and this is Adhyadhika. And then you have Vyavritta Hastakarana, where the fingers turn backwards with the little finger and the others towards the inside. So this movement. And Parivartita, when the fingers move towards the outside, gradually, with the little finger and the others. So these are like connecting movement that you do in between those units of movement. Yes, and so what about the modern reconstructions of karanas?
Can we see the karana before moving on? Maybe we have seen the elements?
Yeah, maybe we can see it with the picture, right?
Yes. So that we have heard all the elements of the karana. Now let's put it all together and I'll show you how the karana looks like.
That this is a very complex movement with a beginning, a middle part, and one end. If you look just at the sculpture, you would think, oh, it's just a posture, but no, it's a really complex movement. And you can go back to this slide. Yes, how it was reconstructed in recent times. It was done by Dr. Padma Subramaniam, a very renowned dancer and scholar from Madras, who put all this evidence we have from different times together. And since Sarah studied directly under Padma Subramaniam, maybe you should say something about it.
Yes, so she has reconstructed it, like Elisa said, with the Abhinav Gupta's commentary of the Natyashastra, of course, with the Natyashastra, with several different texts like Sangeetha, and she had also some Tamil texts, and she referred kind of every text. She referred to every text which even mentioned the karanas. And then there are 5 temples in India. We have pictures of 3 here for this one, which is the Chidambara one, which we have seen already, the Kumbhakonam one, and the Tanjavur one. And as you see in this particular karana, the positions are basically the same. There are karanas where you get for the same karana 3 different sculptures. In each temple, a different sculpture. So that's because it is a movement. So maybe, let's say, I could also put the sculpture like this for the same karana, because it's the beginning of the karana. Then we have the kind of the course of the karana and the end of the karana. So we could take different moments of the movement. And in Tanjavur, this is Shiva. It's all Shiva dancing. In Tanjavur, we have Shiva with 4 arms, which is not because Shiva. Well, it also has to do with why Shiva has in the Nataraja form 4 hands, but it's basically the course of action. So, as you see the backhands arms of Shiva, it's on the side. So he is basically in this movement before he ends there. So this is also the course of action which you see in this sculpture, because it's hard to kind of put action down in a sculpture or in a picture. And this very one is Satara. This is a temple where Padma Subramaniam has helped constructing and put all the karanas in the whole form. So we have Parvati dancing. Parvati is also always showing the beginning of the action, and Shiva dancing, who is with the backhand arms showing the course of action, and with the front arms showing the end of the action. And this we have 108 in Sabha. So now the $1 million question. Do karanas have meaning? People are used to think about karanas as nritta, as pure dance, just abstract dance. But actually, this seems to be what happened in Bharata's Natyashastra, because it doesn't give any viniyogas, any usages for karanas. However, Abhinav gives us some instruction how you can use karanas to represent things, moods, animals, and also qualities of movement, like, next. Yeah, so like feminine and masculine quality. So according to Abhinav Gupta, this is because Shiva and Parvati danced in a duet, and so those karanas that were performed by Parvati have this graceful lasya quality, while those that were performed by Shiva have this very energetic, this tandava or avidya quality. And so we wanted to show you some of examples for these karanas. For vehement karanas, we have, for instance, Dandaka and Vidyut Brahanta, and for graceful karanas, Kala Pushpaputa, that we have already seen, and Nitamba. So, please, so Dandaka. I'll show you how the karana looks like. This is the picture from Chidambara.
So this is the vehement one, another also, Andava.
It looks scary.
And then let's go to the lasya. We have already seen Tala Pushpaputa, and here is Nitamba. Yes, and then apart from qualities of movement, we have animals, karanas representing animals. For instance, Gaja Kriditaka, which is the elephant, or Mayura Lalita, which is the peacock, and Sarpita, the snake. So this Karana, for instance, you can imagine how it can be used theatrically, for instance, for Gajendra Moksha episode, where the king of elephant is taken in the jaws of a crocodile and is crying for help, is desperate, he cannot get off, his feet is trapped in the jaws of the crocodile, and then he offers a flower to Vishnu and Vishnu comes and rescues him. Or Mayura Lalita, the peacock. For instance, for the entry of Subramanyam scandal, which is very cool. Or Sarpita, the snake. You can imagine, for instance, Krishna dancing on the Kalina. And then we have some karanas for Abhinaya also that can express some moods theatrically. So for instance, Chatura for humor, Unmatta for vehemence again, and Madaskalita for a drunk man. So Chatura for humor. Unmatta, the vehemence. And the drunk man. So you can very well imagine how they can be used. Next, we go back to Karana number 1, the Talapushpaputa. So, yes, that is how it goes. And this is a bit more complex of an Abhinaya because it's a stanza, it's the inaugural stanza from a play called Ratnavali. It's a play from the 7th century by Sri Harsha, written in Kannauj. And this is the way the poet wants to bless the public. I read the beautiful translation by Wendy Doniger. It says, the daughter of the mountain stood on her toes, but the weight of her breast kept forcing her to bow low again and again. As she brought her offering to Shambhu, Shiva, she came within the range of his 3 eyes full of desire, which so embarrassed her that her skin thrilled and she trembled and broke out in a sweat. And so the handful of flowers meant for the top of his head slipped and fell between them, and may they protect you. So this is how the poet blesses the public at the beginning of his play. And Abhinav Gupta actually tells us this very interesting information that you can use Karana Talapushpaputa to enact this verse at the end. So what would we can imagine maybe the scene. So Parvati wants to make an offering of flower of Shiva and she enters with a handful of flowers. However, the weight of her breast keeps her bowing down again and again. And as we know, Shiva has 3 eyes and his top eye is a bit upper than the others. What happens? So Shiva sees her and starts to look at her in desire because yes, he's not such a naive god, and Parvati gets totally embarrassed and her skin starts to tremble and she gets sweat and she gets so embarrassed that finally the flowers drop from her hand. And that's where the aim to bless you also in the presentation of this Karana, we bless our public for the beginning of this Swiss Natya Sabha Symposium. And I don't know if we have time also for a little jati or not. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, because we wanted also to show, apart from the history of karanas and the reconstruction, how they can be used creatively today in dance together with adamus. And Sarah is one of the dancers I know that who can do it. She choreographs, she puts together karanas and adamus, and so we wanted to show a little bit, but the audio is not perfect.
Maybe I say something about the jati. We have heard about the lasya and the dandava aspects of the karanas. So this particular jati is a part of a Nambastuti, which is on Shri Rajarajeshwari, Mother Goddess. And so the jati I choreographed is playing with that feminine aspect of lasya. But also I really admire the lines of Bharatanatyam. That clear structure of Bharatanatyam. So I like to play with that feminine grace and also with the lines of Bharatanatyam.
So just for a pedantic note, these are the 4 karanas that you might recognize in Science choreography. First is Nikutaka, second is Ardhasvastika, third is Pada Apavidaka, and fourth is Ardharechita. These are sculptures from Chidambaram.
And it's coming in that line.
I hope you can hear the music.
Veena Venu Vinoda Mandita Kara Kutaka Dhikutaka Tadhingina Tum Tari Ta Jum Takita Takata Di Na Tum Ta Dhana Ta Jum Takita Takata Di Na Tum Ta Tari Ta Jum Takita Takadhana Ta Jum Takita Takata Dhingina Tum Takata Dhingina Tum Takadiku Dhingina Tum Venu Vinoda Mandita Kara.
And before that you move on to Uthra. Uthra tells us, I'm a mother, dancer and teacher in that exact order. So, who's Uthra? Uthra Sankaran is from Coimbatore, India, currently living in Basel. He's trained in Bharatanatyam with and continues learning from Guru Srimati Shobana Balachandra for more than 17 years. Her academic background in media studies and art. Her academic background is in media studies and arts management. She's also an amateur stage actor, a theatre enthusiast, and trained in Carnatic music for more than 15 years. So, in October 2020, she launched her Creative Vedic Kalpana Foundation and its first wing, Kavin School of Bharatanatyam in Basel. Today, she is going to present a Nāyika's Nātakam, a renewed revisit to her contrasting shades. Incidentally, Contrasting Shades was a performance she did during our monthly Sabha meeting. So it's a Padam, Javali, Ashtapati. She draws contrasts and similarities between an Abhisarika and a Mukta Nāyika and exploring new shades in them, with a surprise finale representing the ideal Nāyika himself.
A Nāyika's Nātakam, a renewed revisit to her contrasting shades. If you have had the opportunity to watch my presentation for the SNS founding meeting, this is a revisit and a renewed revisit to the same. There will be some parts that are a repetition from that. So please be patient until we reach the renewed part. I would just like to fill in for the people who have not had the opportunity to watch it. And then in the end, I have created bits of my own choreography for the same Padam and Javali, Yarukagilum Baima and Appadurutu, that could trigger more thought into the Padam and the Javali. Let's dive into the next 45 minutes of Abhinaya. Yarukagilum Baima, a Padam. In Yarukagilum Baima, the Nāyika tells her friend, who should I be afraid of? Let them talk. There is nothing secretive about this. My lover is a great warrior. Had I been a royal queen or a princess, they would have not said a word about me. When I have gained the favor of this great man, why should I bother about these gossip mongers? Yarukagilum Bayama, composed by Subbaramayar, Thalam Mishra Chapu, Ragam Begada, choreography my guru, Srimati Shobna Balchandra. Javali Appadurutu. Now I'm presenting a Javali in Telugu depicting a Mugdha Nāyika, a young and innocent heroine who's very fond of her Nāyika, but is disturbed by the gossips about her relationship. The Mugdha is inexperienced and infatuated. She doesn't understand the meaning of deep love. Oh, friend, these people talk ill of me. I'm innocent and I'm not aware of this. I'm not aware of these skillful ways. I only went to his house to watch the fireworks with my friends. And there they said, I am in love with him. Every time I see him on the road, I just smile and inquire about him. And the other people gossip about this. As children, we used to play together, and I always thought he was a good person. And if I say this, the others say that I'm in love. Is this love? Appadurutu, composed by Pattabi Ramaya, Ragam Kamas, Talam Eka, choreography Srimati Shobna Balchandra.
nati nultina guru tuche gunavangudav varada kadavane chuni todu sarasa madu chukudi dinani appaguru lodai pine chiruda nati nultina guru tuche gunavangudav chiruda nati nultina guru tuche gunavangudav varada talavane chuni todu sarasa madu chukudi dinani appaguru lodai pine chapala chita moche dane appaguru lodai pine appaguru lodai pine appaguru lodai pine.
As we did last time, I would like to quickly call out the contrasts and the similarities. I had planned a slide for you, but it wouldn't work if the slide is down. So, if you had noticed, the one jarring similarity between both the Nayikas is that everybody around is gossiping about their relationship for their lover or their fond one. And there are obviously contrasts. In Yarika Gilumbaima, she is a pragalba. Based on the experience of love, she is mature in the art of love. And in Apadurutu, she is a mukta. She is inexperienced and infatuated. The Nāyika Abhisarika, the Nāyika in Yarikagilum, could be a parakiya, married to one but in love with another, or a samanya who accepts any man without restrictions and goes out to meet her lover without inhibitions. And according to the Ashtanayika classification, she's an Abhisarika who is impatient to meet her lover. I have not classified the Mugdha as she's infatuated and inhibited. So she's not in the mature stage of love. So the Abhisarika is absolutely nonchalant about it. The Mugdha is extremely embarrassed about it. The Pragalba is proud about the love for her man. The Mugdha is shy about her fickleness. The Samanya, or the Parakiya in Yarikagilum, demands that one of the gossip mongers come and confront her. But the Mugdha abashedly pleads her friend to defend or vouch for her. So, now, what is renewed? I took the contrasts and I put a little bit of that into this. In Apaduru, we know what the others are saying. They're calling out her names, bad names. They're speaking ill of her. They're saying she's in love with him, whereas she's only fond and she is probably a teenager and is infatuated. But in Yarukagilum, I tried to imagine what the other people are gossiping. What are they saying? And through that, I tried to differentiate the type of Nāyika. What would a Samanya say? What would a Parakiya say? These are my ideas that were built after the feedback from our founding meeting program. So I always love the question answer, or rather feedback session. I won't explain, if we have time, make a mental note of your guesses of what I'm trying to say in each. If we have time, we'll come back, collect what you discovered, and figure out if she's a Parakiya or Nāyika. Okay.
யாருக்காகினும் பயமா சும்மா சொல்லட்டும் யாருக்காகினும் பயமா சும்மா சொல்லட்டும் சொல்லட்டும் இதில் என்ன சும்மா சொல்லட்டும் யாருக்காகியும் பயமா சும்மா சொல்லட்டும் இதில் என்ன ரகசியமா சும்மா சொல்லட்டும் யாருக்காகியும்
Sorry. So this was my additions to the Yarika Gilumbaima, the Abhisarika Nāyika, what could also be. So now putting a little bit of that into this. In Yarika Gilum, she is openly angry, sarcastic, and disgusted about the rumors. Isn't a Mugdha allowed to be angry at all? It's natural, no? So, what if the Mugdha is also angry? How does she express it? Will she confront the gossip mongers? Let's see. So that was my improvisation. We come to the finale piece of this Nātakam. I thought a fitting conclusion to this Nāyika piece would be, who is this ideal hero that these Nāyikas are so in love with and so defensive about? Who could it be? With a little bit of mischief, with a lot of love, and abundant charm. Who could it be? Krishna. Ashtapadi, number 23, Ksanamaduna. Oh, Radha, my dear, this is the perfect moment for us to get together. I will follow your footsteps one by one wherever you go. Darling Radha, come, put your lotus feet on these bed of leaves. Oh, how soft they are, like butter. They seem to shy away even the lovely creepers. They are embarrassed about it, and they consider you as rival. Oh, Radha, bestow your nectar, bestow me the nectar of your kiss. I am pining for your love. If there is even a moment of separation, My body burns as if in fire. Please keep me alive with your love. You are the only one who can heal it. Ashtapati, Shanamadhuna, composed by Jayadeva, Ragam Dvijavanti, Talam Mishra Chapu, choreography Srimati Shobna Balchandra. Thank you for being patient and watching that ocean of Abhinaya. I would like to conclude with a quote from Srimati Kalanidhi Narayan. If Padams, Javalis and Ashtapatis depicting the Shringara Rasa are performed well by the artists and understood by the audience, the effect is both captivating and lifting. I hope that both as a performer and as an audience, we stayed true to this quote. Thank you very much.